What is up, you beautiful headhunters, recruiters, and search firm owners? This is David Stephen Patterson, UMA's DSP, along with my brothers from other mothers. We have Chris Wessel right over here. We have Neil Lebovitz right over here. And we are the Headhunters live, coming at you live. And today we have a great show for you. We have Dan Fisk and Ryan Buono from Empower Associates. So that said, Neil, Chris, what is going on with you guys before we bring Dan and Ryan on? What's new?
Well,
I can tell you.
Yeah.
I was just
tell
everybody.
Neil, us.
What?
Tell them about us, Christian.
Well, is this where we're going to announce it here? Is this where we're announcing about us? No. So I tell you that Neil is a lot taller in person than you might think. Like I pictured a gentleman of less verticality. He is almost as tall as I am, about 6'2". I turned around, I look in the bar, and here he is, like eye to eye with me, and I'm like, wow, I think he was wearing heels. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was.
Oh, dude, I'm 5'11", but that's such an insult because you picture like George Costanza, right? Like a stocky, bald guy. Like, what were you picturing? Like, I told him.
I didn't say you were stocky. You're like I thought you were a little wiry guy. I didn't think that you were. I didn't know. No one said stocky. Short doesn't have to mean stocky.
Well, I'm just saying you picture me. I mean, I'm not like gigantic. Well, Christian, Chris is like Chris is very handsome on video. Real life, he's like 6'2". Everyone's like, oh, you work out? He's like just sitting there, kind of like very handsome man. First time we saw each other and got to hug and it was wonderful.
It was great.
So,
it was a moment.
So that's it. For those who are just now coming in, I just want to give you guys a heads up. Neil and Chris are talking about their grinder date. It was very awkward. Turns out, what are the odds? What are the odds?
It was serendipity.
Right? Their faces on the grinder profiles, but whatever. I'm not one to. I'm not one to judge.
I should have known by the tattoo.
It makes sense that we were matched.
David,
but that's it. It was a match made in heaven. Let's not ask any more questions, get any more details. But that said, today we have a great show for you. Like I said, we have Dan Fisk and Ryan. But if you're watching this live, comment live down below. It'll help the algorithm. If you like the show, like it. Show us some love. Give some love, likes, comments, whatever. Even hate, doesn't matter. Any engagement at all will help the algorithm, help us reach more people. All right. And if you're watching the replay later, comment replay because you want to see who is watching the show. And with that said, let's talk about Dan and Ryan and actually who we're bringing on. This is Empower Associates. So Neil, actually, you work with Empower Associates. They're one of your partners with Back Office. Who are they? What do they do?
Besides being a great partner, they empower. They've been in the industry for a long time, so they're great to just provide another layperson's perspective. But they bring a foundation and a framework to empowering independent recruiters to have pretty much everything automated for them, done. Get network. They'll tell you more about it, but it's really their name sort of speaks for itself, and it's a very unique tech spin. I gravitate towards them because Boss, Back Office Staffing Solutions.com, where all of your back office needs are met, and White Castle, fueling your lunch needs in New York City for over 20. Okay, anyway.
Neil, I see a break. I see a bathroom break in your future.
There give me some Harold and Kumar vibes there with your White Castle, sir.
I had two for lunch, and I was so hungry last night after I saw Back to the Future, the musical, by the way. I got to say, you'd think it's so fun. If you like that movie, what a great show. Enough of that. That's what I have to say. So anyway, that's their deal. So Dan and Ryan have been in the biz a long time. They know the pain points of the recruiters out there. They have some, a great tool that they have. But again, we'll always do our training, everything. So stay on. Don't tune out if you don't have a need, and that's their deal.
Yeah, and so we're about to bring them on here in just 1 minute here, but I will say this real quick. If you guys can hear us, comment in the chat that you can hear us. Now, with regard to why I think this would be a good show, because I've always been a big fan of, look, at the end of the day, we all as recruiters, you work for a firm, you bill a $40,000 fee, and you get less than half of that, and you think, gosh, I can do this on my own. But doing this on your own has a lot of challenges. And so Dan and Ryan have a solution where you can do this on your own without actually having to go through all the rigmarole, setting up your own company and hanging out your own shingle, and do that within their brand. So let's bring them on. Let's talk about it and see what they have to say, shall we? So let's get started. Let's
We
bring on
shall.
and
Now it's a
Hey guys.
Nice.
Gentlemen.
Welcome. All right, so we have Ryan, we have Dan. Dan is the CEO, COO, and Ryan, you are you're the man behind the technology. So in essence, you're like the man behind the curtain, and Dan is the face, if you will, right?
Boy wonder. Ryan's a boy wonder, right? Yeah.
No, we're super excited to be here. Thanks for having us on, guys. This is awesome. I mean, we're super pumped to get to know you guys a little better and publicly kind of be out there and talk to your audience.
Well, tell us about. So who are you? What do you do? Like that? Describe.
Watching this and they try to poach you, please let me know. Mm-hmm. That's not nice. Yes, they are a client of mine, but don't do that. I don't mind.
Well, we are who we are. We're a group of independent associates. We run an associate model, like you said, David. We are a group of independents throughout the United States who all operate under one brand. Empower offers all of our associates a complete back office. So all your payrolling, all of your invoicing, all your insurance and all the liability and all that, just as though you're in an agency, right? You don't have to worry about that. And then we offer our technology, which we'll talk about, is really one of the key differentiators we have. And then really coaching on how to really kind of leverage all the technology and have a support from that perspective. So really just the back office, the tech and the coaching just puts a formula together that just gives our associates the ability to just go out and do what they do best, which is recruit and develop business. And whether they're running a full desk or splitting internally with other associates, it's just a beautiful thing. And we've had a lot of success and a lot of good feedback, and we're growing. So
yeah, and let me explain this. I just want to say this to clarify, and I'm going to shut up because I know these guys well. But so you understand how their business works. They say back office. I say back office. Neil, why are you having them on the show? Do I use do I use them? No, it's very symbiotic because we provide the employer of record funding, temp back office. We automate with them, right? They provide everything that we don't touch. The associate model, where it's search, it's everything. It's the brand, and they're going to get into that. So we work with them as a tech partner with Ryan, right? But what they offer is far more than what I offer as a back office. When they say back office, they mean back office. Okay, Chris, with that said, go.
So question, like,
and that would go, with like legal agreements and everything else, all the operational, everything that goes along with running a staffing firm, right? So, back office, staffing solutions handles all the payrolling side of everything. And so it takes that and, off our plate, and it's a great partner to have.
Yeah. Boss has been a great partner for us because we absolutely offer the whole back office, but that's a big key component is running the payroll and the employer of record. And so we are publicly happy to talk about that. We are partnered with Boss from that perspective. So, yeah.
So question,
right.
You've got what recruiters are watching this. A lot of them in these groups are solos or aspiring to be solos, et cetera. And they think, okay, Empower Associates is great. I'd love to be part of that, right? And I know we'll talk about some more of the detail of all the different things you do. I imagine that there's some vetting too, right? Like if someone is interested in being part of your team, I know you're going to have a brand you got to protect, and there's some standards, I imagine. And like, so like the people that are watching this, help them understand what's like an ideal associate or some ideal associate profiles.
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, we do. We have a no rookie policy. So our focus is to enable really top producers at the agency have a soft landing externally. Because if you're like myself, I mean, maybe 2 minutes of my story, right? Like I was at large agency for 8 years, top producer. And every day I had that thought, like DSP said, like, man, I'm giving away a large percentage. And I look around me and I think, I can do this every good recruiter's had this thought, right? Especially if you're full desk, split desk, a little bit more of a challenge, right? Because you think to yourself, gosh, I only recruit, but I'm not so strong on the sales side, or I only sell. I really haven't proven my own self on the recruiting side. But so our ideal associate is really kind of start number one would be like a full desk recruiter, right? Top producer. And I say top producer, I mean, I don't mean like number one on the scorecard only, but folks who get it, typically at least 5 years experience, 4 or 5 years plus experience, basically whenever you get that itch, whenever you get, you know that you can do this on your own, and that confidence level could come in year 2 or 3. It could take, like myself, it took me 10 years at the agency before I finally made that leap, right? And anything in between. So our ideal associate is someone who really just says, I really don't want to build everything. I mean, Chris, I know your background, you had owned an agency, and I mean, I'm stealing your story here, but you're more scaled down to kind of a more higher profit model, right? Versus like a whole infrastructure and cost structure and building and maintaining. So we kind of target those who are like, hey, I see that that's a challenge. I don't know that I want to climb that mountain because that's not my specialty. That's not my skill set. But at the same token, I want autonomy. I want to be independent, and I want complete freedom. And so that's what we offer. We don't, all of our associates, there's no geographical limitations. There's no line of business focus that we say you have to focus in a certain area. We don't scrutinize their pricing. If they want to right size a deal from a pricing perspective, there's no like approval that they need. It's truly, we want to empower, enable them, right, to feel like they're completely independent, but with all the support that you'd expect in the organization. Like if you were at a large agency, all the positive benefit of the support and the infrastructure with like none of the negative, right? Yeah. So that's kind of.
Do you do some like training and like other stuff, like upskilling and like team meetings and like leveling them up and like that kind of thing? Is you part of like a community when you join something like this?
Yeah,
absolutely. Sorry, Brian.
No, great question. Absolutely. So that would be like under our coaching umbrella, right? So every couple of weeks we have a group call within the organization, and it's not a mandatory meeting, right? So everyone's welcome to join, because the purpose is what you just said, kind of building camaraderie, relationships that associates have with each other, because when you're out on your own, it's lonely if you're truly by yourself, and you have to build those relationships. I mean, Ryan and I, that's how we became, and again, we should probably let Ryan introduce his background as well, but like we both started the same agency. That's how we met. And when we both started our own staffing firms independently in 2 different cities, we became really close because we wanted to share information. So we knew the value of community as well, and that's what we wanted to build. So we offer that as well, and ongoing coaching and training, whether it's using the technology, whether it's just best practices. I mean, all of us could love to hear from top producers. Hey, how would you handle the sticky candidate conversation? Like, I know what I would do, but what would you do? And that's what makes it fun, for sure.
All right, so
Ryan, you maybe a little bit of intro on your background and kind of how we got together, and for context.
Yeah.
Definitely. So actually, I was at I would say Robert Half is where I cut my teeth in recruiting, and actually how I learned about the opportunity was
not be named Ryan on this show, right? I still feel I'm almost over it, like 50 years later, but it's almost Baltimore-esque when you say it. You hesitated too.
Yeah, it is what it is. You can look at my LinkedIn profile. It's right there. And actually learn about.
I will say this. I will admit I did work. It's not on my LinkedIn, but I did work for 2 weeks with Office Team.
No way.
No way.
Way back in like maybe 2000, right before I started with MRI. 2 weeks at Office Team. It sucked. Then I got an offer with MRI, and then that's when I started doing search. So,
and let me say this, and then Ryan go. But I worked for Robert Half in the New York office when it was still a franchise, and Bob Half's nephew owned it, married to his daughter. Okay, and he spoke at one of our New York events. He came in. Bob Half came and spoke to us. How cool was that? He came in. Cool. His big line was, ethics was a whole thing. If you think it's unethical, then it is. And I met Bob Half. How cool is that? Back to you, Rob.
And by the way, Office Team is a part of Robert Half. At least it was back then. Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right.
That's fine. So I actually learned about the opportunity from a girlfriend, like back in 2010, who worked for Apex Systems, and I went to her founders club and thought, I could do that. I was doing some entrepreneurial stuff at the time, and thought, this is a really good business model. I know this. I'm just a full business person through and through, entrepreneur, and just. That's my spirit, right? Is to build something big and do something. And so I cold called Robert Half the same way that I knew that they would want an account manager to cold call a client and NPC'd myself all this stuff and then formally applied online and all that. Got in, and it was a great place to learn. Unlike Dan's story, I was there for about a year. I was in doing temp placements and account management and no recruiting at that time. Moved over to the perm team, and was, I was like a, top 30% over there, right, producer. And then one day they just decided to blow up the perm team. I got fired. And so I was like leaving work thinking, oh my gosh, I feel amazing right now. This is like a liberation, right? And so I was set to, do my own thing, start my own agency, because being an entrepreneur, learning the model, everything, it's like, to me, it all makes sense, right? Like I'll just go do this on my own. It's simple, without all the craziness that always went in our office. I think we had 25 people come and go in 1 year in technology division when I was there, and not all of Robert Half is like that. I was I was in a crazy place. So, but then I get a call. Yeah, I get a call from my manager and asking, hey, if we could get your job back, would you do it? I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go back. Like they had to pull me back in. So I did. I went another 6 months. It was another 6 months of crazy. Finally I said, I'm out of here. So I actually started a competing firm across the courtyard from them in La Jolla. And, I just showed up to work every day. I had a free LinkedIn account and just ground it, working 12-hour days, closed my first deal within 3 weeks, $21,000 fee. And just grinding all the time. I was single, whatever. Just that's all I did was work. And I just stayed longer and later than everybody else in the office across the courtyard, and really wanted to grow it from there, right? So I was always amazed at how when I joined a major company, right, like very well respected, that I got plopped into a seat, and they essentially said, "Here's the phone. Like you kind of know what's the deal with the recruiting industry, so." Have at it. And I remember no templates for anything, no systems that I was, that they really had. Like, yeah, first you do this, you follow up with this kind of email, you do these things. Like there was nothing there. And it just totally shocked me as like a business person, how they could run a business that way. And so when I started to scale on my own, I started focusing a lot on systems, right? And because I knew if I ever wanted to grow something, I had to get the system down and to have that consistency, right? And so that's really where I started to gear towards is the systems. Okay, then I migrated ATSs, a few times. This was always a horrible experience. Trying to get that down. Worked on all the marketing automation, external tools, integrating those things. Oh, this field doesn't map with that field. These systems kind of play nicely together through Zapier, but they really don't because I can't get all the data. A lot of stuff like that, right? And so I was always focused on the operations, putting that together. And something I'll mention is, Dan was my mentor at Robert Half, right? And so I'm doing these things. He's looking at leaving on his own. He had encouraged me to leave first, and now I'm encouraging him to go leave, do his own thing. And, a few years later, exactly what you said, David is, he's more the front guy, right? The salesperson, more interacting. I'm the man behind the curtain. And that's exactly what we talked about when we joined forces, right? It's like, you're very, public facing, and I'm more of an operational guy. So let's do that. And, we can build a business together and do it very well. So that's kind of we got started.
That Ryan and I got started really just talking, the two of us, and we just noticed all of these problems that all these ATS systems and all the lack of automation. And so we're always looking at each other like, we really need to build something to solve this problem. And that's kind of how we got started in Power Associates a few years ago in 2020.
Well, Ryan, so what do they want to mention here? So you mentioned when you left Robert Half, and you were happy when they fired you, which is sometimes it's like that divorce that you get when it finally happens. You're like, my God, I feel like there's a weight off my shoulders, right? You probably felt that same way.
I'll never forget driving. I was driving home, and it was like the sunset that I saw going to where I lived in Pacific Beach at the time. Single guy, North Pacific Beach, good spot for a single guy. But yeah, driving towards the coast, just like I'll never forget just this image I had of like liberation and like that feeling of, oh my God, this was a blessing, such a blessing. Yeah.
It's a great story. And I tell you what, man, but obviously, that's exciting, but it also has to be paired with the work ethic, right? So it's working 12 hours a day. You're a grinder, not the grinder I was talking about with Neil and Chris, of course, but But you're right, right? And that's you already tied that
geez.
in. But I wonder, and by the way, I want to actually ask some questions, not necessarily about Empower. I want to get back into that later, but I do want to have you maybe provide some value to the audience as far as what if they were starting, where they start with you or what have you, but if they're going independent, like what do they need to do in order to really establish themselves? But before I do that, I want to ask you a question personally, Ryan. I noticed your shirt says American BMXer. You are you are a BMX enthusiast, I take it.
I am. Yeah. I got into it when I was very young, got out of it for, a number of years, 17 years or so, picked it up right after I got engaged to my now wife. And she's like, what is this about? I thought you were done with that. Because my brother and old friends got back into it. So yeah, very much into it, actually training up for the 2024 Union Cyclists International World Cup, which is being held in South Carolina, Rock Hill, in May next year. So
damn you, you're a very fit and handsome man, by the way. You're very handsome. And I'm straight.
Well,
I just say that.
The reason why I bring this up is because I remember back in 1986, there was this little movie you might recognize.
They say this guy Bart Taylor's gonna walk hell track.
I don't know. It's gonna take a radical miracle to beat this guy.
I was 11 when this came out, and I wanted to be a pro BMXer.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
I got in it in the early 90s through the school library magazine.
Let's walk this sucker.
This is, yeah. So, anyway.
I've never jumped out of a cereal bowl, the kick cereal bowl, but, there's still time.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So
Are there any
anyway,
Jewish
back on point though.
I'm picturing I cannot do that if I wanted to. Are there any Jews that are capable of doing it? I wonder. You don't answer that. I could say it as a Jewish person. Sorry, never mind. Back to your point.
So, all right. So, but that's it, guys. So let's say somebody want to go start on their own, whether they start with Empower or anybody else, but just in general, leaving a bigger firm like you do with Robert Half, like what's the first step? What do you got to do? Because at the end of the day, you got to go out and get clients and get business, right? So what do you need to do to actually get yourself established and get some traction and get that first placement?
Yeah.
What's your best advice?
Yeah. I can tell you what I did, right? I started my company, right? I formed my corporation so I could collect a check, right? Get my bank account going, got those legal ducks in a row, got my email, my company registered, all those things, right? And I think just at that time, I chose my ATS, Bullhorn to start is where I was, I think that was it. I mean, some classic business stuff. I got a logo and blah blah. Just the typical branding things that I wanted out of the way. But really, day one, it was I'll never forget. Like I made a cold call from Craigslist ad, I think, an ad call, and talked to the team lead, and that company was my first place. I got the job order the very first day. I was very confident because I knew my abilities in recruiting and just sold that through and through. And got the order. Of course, I did the whole like, oh yeah, I got a few people like that, like what you need, right? And then scrambled and just ground it out. But it's really work ethic, right? Like do what you do at the agency for yourself. Treat yourself like you'd fire yourself if you don't follow through, right? Like I constantly would say, would I fire me right now? Would I fire me because I'm not doing this or that? Like, okay, I should probably be doing this, right? Like always keep that mentality. You keep the mentality of that, you're never going to slack off, right? You hold yourself accountable. And I think that's
Ryan, can I ask you a corollary to that question? A corollary would be did you have to do a self-assessment though of, especially coming from, let's say, a Robert Half, of maybe what you need to get better at? Like, you know what? I realize I don't have sales reps anymore. I don't have people. I got to do this. Did you have to do that and change or just do the same thing? Because how do you answer?
Yeah. I mean, I was full desk at Robert Half, so I was, more so competing against my peers there for, whatever it might be. So I actually looked at it like eliminating competition. Like finally, I could just do my own thing and not worry about the office doing whatever they're doing. So I was just able to finally thrive on my own second. I got to stop her there.
For any more on the show, Ryan, we're got to end this now. What's going on back there? I see I'm worried. You have an insect.
Yeah, that's right. So that's my little boy Everett there, and I have no lock on my doors. He is now stopping it back up.
Open door policy.
Yeah. So
those reindeers, they get loose. I don't know, it gets nuts.
Yeah.
He can stay in. We don't care. He doesn't bother us. He can stay in.
So like lost my train of thought here. But
sorry.
They do that.
I'll interject here. So basically what you're saying is a $21,000 placement that you made off of a Craigslist ad, in essence, right? Was that the which is really amazing. This goes to show you that when you're starting out, you gotta attack every opportunity like rapidly. Because I think for most people, they're not going to call a Craigslist ad, but it just goes to show that when you're first starting out, you got to seek out every opportunity and do every single thing you can to get opportunities, right?
Yeah, and I want to mention too that I grounded. I had a free LinkedIn recruiter account. That was it. And what I did was actually the guy that I placed, I cold called into a large healthcare company and was able to work through the tree. Hey, I know this isn't a great time, but you look like a phenomenal engineer. I'd love to talk to you about an opportunity that I have that I think you'd be very excited about. Is it, when's a good time to talk? What's a good number, right? And I cold called into the company. I don't think many people are doing that these days, and so it really is just taking that I won't fail approach, do whatever it takes to make that placement. I would look in the ad and say, that's $25,000. Do I want that? Every single thing. So yeah, just I think a lot of mindset. And I know you talk a lot about mindset as well, David, but yeah, total mindset.
100%.
You never know where the opportunity is going to lie too, right? Like sometimes you see something, some company's hiring a ton of people. That's where I'm going to make a ton of money. And then you talk to some other companies, that just kind of off the radar, that turns out to be your bread and butter for like a year.
Yeah, that's what this was. Yeah.
You don't know like where it's going to come from, or like even just judging on the surface, what how much business you might get from a company, or whether or not they're going to need your help or want to be willing to pay for it. It's crazy, like where some of us have found like hit a vein where we didn't think that there was anything, and that might be what fed us for like most of a year if you're solo or if you're at an agency.
But DSB, I can answer your question if you don't mind. I'll answer your question like what I did and what I would do today. It'd be different, right? I mean, that was 2015 was 8 years ago, right? And for me, and the world has changed.
Hush you with your math.
I think we need to evolve. And at DSP, you're big on. I mean, I follow your content as well, and I know you get this, right? Ben, you teach this, but there are better ways to do things. You can automate so much of your desk, and the problem is that's just technologically that's a lot to be in charge of, right? It's an effort. You have to work on your business, right? And it takes time. And but once you set up that yourself, you are doing the same kind of conversations, but they're warmer, right? And so understanding the basic blocking and tackling. Okay, I got ad calls, reference checks, trying to find new clients. I mean, walking through business parks. I mean, who does that anymore, right? I mean, going through a business park with a stack of cards for an afternoon, like all these things work and are effective. But what you kind of gravitate the things that are more effective over time. Mm-hmm. And then you try and automate those things if you can, right? And maximize your effort. And
just because you automate doesn't mean you can't build relationships. The automation helps you build relationships, right? That's the way I look at it.
It's an assist. It's not a slam dunk, right? You need to still bring it over the finish line. So the world's changed a lot in the last several years, and I think that just being aware of that is important. I think you have to have someone at your company paying attention to the moving trends, whether it's where your clients are buying, where the shift is in the economy, whether it's how they respond to certain messaging, right? Giving them all the power, as I know a lot of people have heard, when you're messaging with people, like give them the power. Don't be so like, hey, when are we going to meet? You should take a look at my candidate, So there's all these little subtle nuances to the business that you learn over time, and it really, really affects your bottom line.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. So somebody's starting out on their own. Let's say they leave Robert Half, or whatever company they work for. They want to go independent. And nowadays they have other options, right? There's things like Tima, right? Or there's there's a couple others out there. I can't remember the names, but that's the one I think of.
Frederick
so
Fox, if you want to give Will a plug, Will Spangler.
Oh yeah,
That's right,
yeah, Will's got a good thing going too. Will and Rob.
So let me ask you. So what about Empower? Because I know you guys talk about
Yeah.
how you have this unique sort of a sort of tech flavor or tech solution. So walk us through that, because it sounds pretty interesting what you guys have going on, but I want to hear more about it.
Yeah, it's a great question, and that's really what our differentiator is. Whether it's Tima, we're Tima and the others, we're essentially the same associate model, right? It's an 80-20 split, right? It's a simple comp plan there, but you're maximizing it. But really, and all of us have a back office, right, that support it. But that's really that's where our similarities end, right? So we have the back office infrastructure, we have the 80-20 split. And, of course, there's good people leading those companies from a coaching perspective, might have support there, and even a community, right? What differentiates us is that second pillar of our company, which is the technology. So, and really, at a high level, I can explain it and maybe show you a screen if you want to. I can do that. But effectively, what we did is we took a hard look. What are all the most common activities we do as recruiters where there is opportunity for automation? And this isn't news to anyone. You've got LinkedIn automation tools out there. You've got sequenced email messaging automation tools, integrating VoIP calling and SMS texting with your platform, having a CRM that can handle that and fully integrated.
You're cutting out, Dan.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Am I here?
You're back.
Am I back?
Yeah, well, you're
Okay.
back.
You have data brokers that we all use, but the challenge is not knowing about those things. It's integrating them into your process such they don't slow you down. Right. So what Ryan and I did very simply is we built an end-to-end automation on all those components. So we effectively take let's start with a LinkedIn search. We all start there. Let's say I'm doing a job order search and I'm looking for candidates. I see 116 candidates in New Jersey, in the area that I'm recruiting for, and on any given day. And you're really proud of your search. You got Sales Navigator. You got a lot of good Boolean. You look at page 10 and you're like, yeah, any one of these people look great, right? Well, then you have to how do I get out? Well, you got data brokers. You can go access and download lists, and then you've got a call list now, and then you got to manage that in your CRM. What we do is we basically take from that moment that you do a search, you paste that URL into our CRM. It sources all those people as people profiles in our CRM, brings them all in, integrates dynamically with data brokers on the back end, so it gets all their contact information. And then they get put in a workflow for outbound messaging, all within minutes of the first click. And that's really our goal, is that first piece, getting the data in, having the data integrity organized correctly. And I know DSP, you're real big on data integrity, right? And that's important. But being able to basically within minutes, be able to message all these folks and in the workflow, be able to start with LinkedIn and send that email at the same time and reference each other, and then be able to follow up with those sequence follow-ups if they don't reply. So all of that automation is key. And it's in everything I just said. I know most recruiters listening to this are saying, yeah, I use a tool like that. I know what he's talking about. But we also integrate all that into one platform. So
yeah, the recruiters.
Why don't you share your screen when you get a chance too? Totally show us around a little bit. Go ahead,
the recruiters that listen and say, "Oh, I know I have a tool like that I use," also are very keenly aware that they don't all play nice together.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That's why that's a really big deal. That integration, there's a lot of value there and time saving if you're running your own desk, because you could try to replicate that on your own, and you could probably figure it out at some point, but you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure that out, that you could be billing instead. And maybe that's not your strong suit. And so that infrastructure you guys are talking about, it sounds simple and elegant, and then it is, but it's also very complex, right? And
yeah, and there's things like the data management side. When you send an email, that email bounces, right? Well, we automatically update that in the system, right? So automatically based on the response of the email, or if somebody opens it, okay, now we know that email is valid, and we mark that as valid. If somebody, the wrong person on the email, we don't mark that as invalid. Actually, we just mark it as wrong person, and it still is associated with that record that was enriched before. But now we'll never re-enrich that person with bad data again because we know that's just the wrong person, right? So that's already there and it's done with. We won't use that one again. So there's like all these data management tricks that we've got that, and not to mention the macros, right? Like the high customization that we can have with our macros when you're high first name, and then we have it where you have a macro that says like last outbound messaging, robust, right? Platforms like I last messaged you on LinkedIn and the date, time, so you can have a fully automated system that's super hyper personalized to the person. And you don't have to worry about how those systems integrate.
I want to see it. I haven't seen it. Show us under the hood, man. I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen it. It's gonna be new. I mean, I saw previous, show us what you got.
So I'm sharing my screen right here, and let me know if you guys can see it.
I think David's got to turn around.
I think he has to turn around.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Is it sharing my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. So I can just in literally 2 minutes.
Make it a lot bigger. Make it a lot bigger though. The zoom.
You want me to zoom in? Let me do control.
Yeah, just hard for people to read.
How about that?
Yeah,
make it bigger. Neil says that all the time. Go on.
Oh,
right there,
Jesus. No, that's up to you.
All right, let me go ahead and start. Let me go ahead and start here. And in a couple minutes, I can show you everything I just verbally said to you earlier. So I went ahead, obviously for the demo here, I went ahead and did a sourcing task, but essentially it starts with sourcing, right? So you start on LinkedIn, you've got a sales navigator URL, and you put that into a sourcing task. So you can see right here on this screen that right here is my URL that I pasted in here from LinkedIn. And then all I did was just give it a name. I said this is more of a client for candidate prospect. I'm going to own these records when they come into the system, and I launch. And when I did that, it brings back all these profiles. These are complete scrapes from LinkedIn. So these are all of the public profile, all their information. And as you know, Sales Navigator has more data than just the basic free account. So we get all of that. Secondly, you'll notice I've got contact information for these people because I got them from Seamless and ZoomInfo in this example, right? So you can see that this one right here didn't get any data from Seamless, but I got it from ZoomInfo. So I can see I've got coded work or personal emails and phone numbers. I've got their LinkedIn profile. I can do things right from this view, but this is just the sourcing view. So from here, I can select.
ZoomInfo and Rich would cost them $15,000 for that feature just alone, as an example. Like if you really want great enrichment, like that's done.
Yeah, it's
API.
pretty incredible it's pretty incredible what we do and what we've got. So right here, from here, I've got these.
When all these records are sourced, you'll see anybody with a state a city and state. We automatically assign them a zip code so that you can search later based on zip code, because zip code's kind of the king when you're doing searches, right, with radius search and all that stuff. So everybody is automatically tagged. And just about the tech and owning the tech, the beautiful thing is with all the AI and everything, and owning it end to end, is that when new stuff comes out, like we can just extend it. We can just put a new system in real easily. Versus, what technology is out there now to do that, and how are we going to integrate with that and whatever like that? We just build it in, right? Like DSP talk about having that company name that we have a company alias in our system as well, right? So we're definitely road mapping some AI just to automatically generate an alias based on pulling that in, right? That data in. So everything can just be like automatically brought in. All those nuanced things like you don't have to worry about, right? So
there's a ton of value in this. This is a big deal.
Yeah. And so what I was going to show you next is just to refresh is I'm going to show you a campaign. So I could add these people to a campaign. They're already sourced, scraped, enriched, organized in the database, searchable. But more importantly, I can add them to a campaign. And here I just added them. I haven't launched this campaign. I'll show you a launch one in a minute. But you can see that I've got all their data. I'm ready to start measuring engagement. And I'll show you that in a minute. But they're here. And then more importantly, I create a workflow. And I'll go full screen on this. Is kind of fun. The workflow it's a visual workflow where this is actually another really cool thing we did in Empower. We created a lot of templates in the messaging. And just based on our experience, based on best practices, how you should message. So here's an example of an email talking about, exclusively represented a candidate, giving them all the power, happy to discuss, when can we connect, call to action. They put in their MPC as there, and then all the follow-up, and send an invite right away. If their first connection, it defaults over here through this tree. If they send an invite, we await a certain amount of time for acceptance. I have a little node here called phone call, not because the system calls them dynamically with some, it's me just reminding myself to call them after a day or the day of, right? When I sent that email and reference it. And then it goes through this workflow and all the follow-up emails, as you would imagine. They're sequence looking. You've got the prior messages, you're following up. Can we set up a call, etc. And then on and so forth. This is just a 3-step example with a simultaneous default to send over LinkedIn. So you're sending an invite here, and the DMs match the attempts that were. So this is an example. If the email fails, right? If for whatever reason it fails, and that obviously happens more with work emails as they change over time, not really personal.
Super user friendly looking.
Yeah.
I want to address the comment. And so when you work with an enterprise marketing software, these workflows, it actually gets crazy complex. The more you can do, the more you can build out, right? So this is kind of our 1.0 version of this. We're working on workflows in this section and building out these templates for everybody to use, right? So we're pretty excited about this functionality and where it's headed for sure.
Yeah. So that's really it from a campaign. And then what happens is after the campaign's launched, I'll just show you an example of a campaign I ran for a webinar. And you could looking for the results here with this engagement column. So now I can see, oh, this person opened it. It was delivered once and opened once. And this person actually, let's go down to this one. This one opened it 3 times, right? So at that point, I'm like, all right, well, I want to give this guy a call, right? Or it's been delivered, but it hasn't been read yet. So that's good data as well to follow up on. And from here, I'm actually just I can make a phone call. This is my call list, right? I can call right from the integrated VoIP, which is right up here in our CRM, right? And it would just dial and I can do notes. Once they answer the call, a window pops up and I can start entering my call notes, or I can just do it here manually, right? I can click their record and I can fly out and I could call from here or compose I could directly interface with them, message with them over LinkedIn or over email, whatever it may be, right? And it'll go, oh, we're integrated, we're authenticated with each user's LinkedIn and email account on the back end. That's kind of a high-level overview of the system. I'm just gonna.
How do you split it? Is there a way to split it? How do they broadcast? Is there a way? Where is there a community down here? Is that separate, or is that just total? And then obviously we know, like in ATS, though, this will work, and although you do the invoicing, you do everything you talked about. But what about the rest of the Empower people? Is it all separate instance? Anything connected?
Yeah, we all share the same database. Ryan, maybe you want to answer. Yeah.
Yeah. No, just exactly that. We all share the same database. You can make records private if you like. We kind of poll the team, right, and say, hey, how do you want to operate, right? Do you want by default open? Do you want restricted? Whatever. But we look at an open ecosystem. We're all professionals. We're all ethical people, right, and work our business, and we know that we want to play nice in the sandbox. So everybody's got open access right now. That's just kind of where the whole team has landed, the associate team. And so yeah, they can restrict a record if they choose to, and then it's only visible to them. And then you can also assign records to each other.
Plus,
right?
because now that was kind of where I was going. I wasn't sure. It's a major plus. Now it's not just their database. It's not just their tools. And like Chris said, I can get that there. I can get that. Sure, you can. It's all in one place from start to finish, from placement. It says not just an ATS, and now let me take care of the back office, the invoicing, the collections. If you need payroll and funding, they come through Boss, right? They do all that. But so it's really great, and you get access to all these people that are enriched, their enrichment, and you know how it works. You need one network connection through one person, and the world's your oyster, right?
So the other thing too is, right, like, sorry.
No,
I was just saying one thing where I see value is, like, if you're a busy recruiter, you're actually making deals, closing deals, you have like zero time to work on your business. You have zero time to stitch together solutions in the back end. You have zero time to figure out what works with what. And you're just kind of like, if you're really producing, you're busy as hell. You're running around, making calls, closing deals. The only thing that you're doing you're creating invoices and sending those off. You won't miss a beat on getting those out the door. But other than that, you're just got a notepad full of scribbles. You might not have entered even if you have an ATS, you probably didn't enter half your notes in there or half your candidates because you're just moving it like the speed of light. So this is like a really big deal. I mean, if you're newer and you have time and you don't have clients, you have a lot of time to like conceptualize and think about the business, but you also know a lot about how it actually needs to flow because you're new to it. But when you're chugging along and you're producing and you're doing it for somebody else and you should be making more money, when you get out there, it's just a frenzy of activity. Like you don't really any time to think about this stuff or experiment.
Yeah, when you've got a 30K deal on the line and you've got an exclusive client and it's Thursday and they're like, if you can get me a couple people by Monday, I can get this person offered on Tuesday. I'm working that weekend. Like I'm working and I'm working all day Thursday, all day Friday, Saturday, a little time with the family, Sunday. But I'm telling my wife, hey, this is 30 grand.
Yep.
And you know what? You two aren't schlubs, right? And when I told these guys when I was pitching you to the team, right? When I was pitching you guys, I said, these aren't just partners of mine. These are two guys that know the business. So you guys were stars. You guys are amazingly talented. And you guys are the ones that are going to be thinking about all these nuances that they shouldn't ever have. The latest tech, we need to get to the next one. What's tomorrow? Yeah, I've got this. I have that. You're going to always be on the cutting edge of it. We're going to be with you on the cutting edge on the payroll, back off, whatever. But you want a team like them behind you. I'm just telling you. That's why I told these guys this is going to be a great show. Because they get the business and there's so much people can learn from them, and their tool is a great solution that I endorse for sure.
Thank you.
And I give them business. So I put my money where my mouth is. I give their associates my internal business, not as a favor, but because they've got a great network. And why? Like, why wouldn't I push it out to that network? It's one call my CFO makes to Dan, and Bob calls you, and we're done, and we get the right solution. I love it.
Yeah.
Neil, I heard you were giving Chris the business on your grinder date, but anyway.
He does like to spread the love.
Oh man. Hey, by the way, I want to ask this. So obviously it's really cool. It's a really good looking platform, and actually I can see a lot of value in it. But I do want to ask this question beyond the tech side. Let's say, because you guys are in build mode, right? You guys are building, and so you must have a vision in your head of where to be in 3 to 5 years. So technology aside, or maybe it includes technology, but for someone who is looking at this thing, yeah, but even then, like 20%, like, is it worth it for me to go with Empower versus go out on my own? What is your vision over the next 3 to 5 years that somebody can get freaking excited about, right? Like, what would that be?
Yeah, I feel like that's a great question. You know, that's always the thing you're going to do. If I go with an associate model and give up 20%, I kept 100% on my own.
You're breaking up again, Dan.
Yeah.
You're cut out. Sorry. Am I back?
I think so.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You wouldn't really know the answer to that question unless you start your own thing. You know, like Chris or myself, when we went out and started, we're spending way more than 20% of our time, right, on this stuff. And in reality, you've got costs anyway, so it's not zero, right? Like, let's just say 10%. So you're really talking about a delta, right, of 10% or so premium. And that's where the light bulb goes off and you're like, okay, so really for that amount of money, I get all the headache and administrivia taken off my plate. I get a whole team to support me. Top producers, former top producers, business owners who are paying attention to this 100% of the day. And then also the vision you mentioned, David, like, yeah, we're very excited about the future. There's so, from a technology perspective, from the things we're all learning as recruiters, better ways and more efficient ways and ways to engage our clients. There's so much opportunity, and we're paying attention to it for our associates.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is the coaching side. You know, I'll work with our associates on search, right? Like if there's a few things that I'm very proud of in life. Like one of them is my ability to like hone in and do very like robust searches, right? Like a lot of times I'll work with our associates and I'll get them, maybe twice the candidates or 3 times the candidates, and it's more narrow search to exactly what they need, right? Like on the recruiting side. So there's just a ton of value there from a coaching perspective. And like, Dan had mentioned, like, oh, we don't care about whatever your terms are. We don't, but we do coach you on it, right? If we see something that's like, oh, that's kind of a red flag, like, why are you doing that? Why are you giving that away? You can approach it this way. Like, the money that we've made our associates as well by coaching them through certain situations. I mean, even like I know I've gotten many of our associates, quite a number of candidates that they've made placements with. And, Dan's had coaching conversations and collections conversations that have netted, tens of thousands of dollars that wouldn't have otherwise been there. Right. So it's very hard to say, if you're going out on your own, you're saying, yeah, I can do this on my own. It's like, there's also an ignorance of like, you don't know what you don't know. And, I'll say this, like building this software, right? There's the ignorance of like, I don't know what I don't know. And oh my gosh, like there were so many things to work through to get this stuff to play nicely and to do these things, right? But unless you do it, you're not aware of actually the nuances to scale. And like DSP, you mentioned, like you want everything in a field, right? That's exactly my mentality, right? Is with the tech is everything is tracked. You can search on everything, right? Like you won't be like, oh, who is that candidate that I put out, this company a few months ago and they were good, but gosh, well, I wish I could remember the client liked him, but he couldn't hire him at the time, right? Like you'll never have that if you like just mark this one field in the system, right?
Think about it. What's your time worth? Like, what's your time worth? If there's some of the stuff that you guys take off someone's plate, could that be one more deal? Could that be 20 grand more that you could have got because you spent a little bit more time on the phone talking?
It's a no-brainer.
Well, because people can nickel. I think when people are sometimes going on their own or they're looking at this, they've never run a business before. I think they still are kind of like greedy about what they spend money on, or they're cautious to give up part of the deal. But like your business has expenses, right? Like you said, like, I bill $350, $400 a year, and my expenses are in the realm of a little under 10%. So, like you said, you're dead on, Dan. Like someone's giving up another 10%. But could you have built 100,000 more, 200 more?
What lifestyle do you want in the meantime? I mean, that's like you literally show up and you do the thing and then you leave, right? Like there's no, my website went down or whatever, right? Like it's
so beyond the what they get for the 20%, I definitely get that. But I guess what I mean more is, what about, let's say 5 years down the line? Because you guys have a vision of what you want to build, right? Like a vision where I'm building the Shangri-La and I want to invite you into it. So let's say in a few years, get this thing built. What does it look like for Empower? Like, what is that vision in your head?
Well, first of all, for context, I really believe that we're going to see a huge shift in the people who are at agencies versus those who are independent. We're going to see, because the agencies have a hard time retaining top producers, right? They don't know how to treat them as juggernauts. They come back and they say, I make 50% a deal. Can I get more? And they're like, no, it doesn't work that way. And you just have to leave and become independent. So we're kind of that soft landing. But in terms of the vision in the future, it's like there are so many, and I'll let Ryan address the tech, but there are so many advantages to having this type of model together where we can grow with where the trends are going in terms of where people want to land and what they want to do. Having an 80-20 model, having an associate model as an option, the most common response I get from somebody is, I didn't even know this existed. I thought I had to stay at an agency or go be completely independent, right? And that's really kind of the beauty. In terms of like vision, Ryan, you may want to talk about this as well in terms of the tech.
Yeah. I mean, really, the thing that I love the most about this is that it's just serving all the associates, right? Like I'm listening to this Audible right now, give and take, right? I just started it last night, and they talk about givers, takers,
you should
and
really be paying attention to the podcast instead. But okay, if you want to listen to that, I'm just joking.
Yeah. I started here. This is I don't read anymore. Don't have time. But net time, no extra time, right? I can just listen and do my other thing. But it's real. I've always been a giver, right? And it's the fact of like to be able to constantly provide value to everybody and be forward looking. Like, how do we provide so much value that like they're just never want to leave, right? They're like, this is I'll gladly always be with you and do this, have this journey. This is amazing, right? Just the level of support and camaraderie like that we could build, and just providing that network for people. I mean, that's really the vision, to have just the turnkey, amazing value. They show up, they do what they love to do best. We support them in, you know, the best ways possible, and they're making great money. I mean, there's nothing more that I think we could ask for than to just do that, right? I mean, that's the whole goal.
And let me share, David. I know it's weird that I'm going to answer their question also, because we share one together and we have vision meetings together. And they're visionaries, these guys, and they're not software engineers, programmers who created software for recruiters. They're visionaries and experts. You see their backgrounds and what they've done, that know how to create software. Big difference. And you just get exactly what you guys said. And it's just, nothing exists like it. Tima, yeah, you gotta. What is it? It's not a. It's an ATS. Yeah, they'll handle you back. It's not this. It's not. And it's not the future. And so that's what it is for us, and that's how we play in at Boss. And we're the same for our people. Everything is business in a box. You want to make it one stop. You don't want to go. It's crazy for the right. So it's amazing, and they're visionaries.
Yeah, and the CRM and there's marketing. Like there's so many things. Like the full vision is definitely a big grand vision, and I've got it designed. You know, we've got it roadmapped. We've got just everything that somebody would need to like screen candidates, present them well, NPC them well, have, you know, searching on it, just everything. I mean, there's a massive amount of stuff that we've got planned, and it's. Like,
I would hitch my wagon to your star if I was independent, and I would totally do that, 100%. Yeah. Sincerely,
so,
everyone, sincerely.
David,
David, time for
go ahead.
Wrap up. Yeah, but about time for us to wrap up the show here. We're about 1 minute past the hour, and so that said, just to wrap things up, I guess Dan, Ryan, the floor is yours. Is there anything you want to add? Just one final thought to anybody out there that is independent, thinking about going independent, who is a bit on the fence. If you just want to leave one final thought for these folks, then we'll wrap up the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just say, if you're interested, I mean, I have confidential conversations every day with potential associates. There's no pressure. A lot of times it's just, they want to bounce idea. They want to like, hey, I think I'm going to go independent anyway, but I wanted to get I saw your videos and I just want to get your take on it and maybe some advice. I'm always happy to talk to any potential associates and help in any way I can. So even if you're just thinking about making the leap, set up a call. Just go to our website. You can schedule a call directly with me on my calendar. Happy to spend some time with you, give you whatever information I have that could help you. If you're interested in our program, of course, I can show that to you and schedule some dedicated time and really answer any question you have. Most of our associates who start, they're launching their first campaigns their very first day. So that's not like a sales, that's true. We set it up to where we just want you to hit the ground running right away, getting job orders your first week or two, just activity and results. And we're all about that. We'd be your biggest cheerleaders. So whether you want to just meet me and just kind of get to know me and just kind of chat and keep in touch and network, I'm open to that. Or if you want to seriously chat about Empower, I'd love to get into detail with you.
Yeah, and
thank you guys.
I would say, there's never a good time, you know, to like stop making a salary, right?
Yeah.
But what I would say, and this was a big thing for me, right, in my decision, and I knew that at Robert Half, for instance, right, I have 3 months to produce. You have 3 months to produce. Or you're fired, essentially, right? You don't book a deal like in so long, you're let go, right? So there's your job security. You can map it out financially. So if you're looking even at going out on your own, not Empower, whatever, just look at, am I confident in my ability to get a client, close a deal within 3 months? Well, there you go. If you're making 20% of, you know, on commissions, now you just gave yourself essentially 4 months of job security, right? Or 5 months of job security, because you're making 100% now, right? So you can create your own job security by closing your deal, and now you've got your runway, right? So that's what I'd offer, right? If you're confident in your abilities to close or just to close a deal through full cycle, I would just do it. If you feel like you're not getting paid enough, just take the leap, because you can do it.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. If you work for another firm, at the end of the day, if you're not producing, you don't have job security. So it's really, if you're not producing, whether you're on your own with you guys or with a Robert Half or what have you, at the end of the day, then you don't have job security. There's really no such thing in this business, right? We eat what we kill, right? And that's the beauty of this business. And that's why this business chews so many people up and spits them out. But the ones who stick do really, really well, right? So with that said, guys, I think that is it for the show. I'm going to do a couple of promos here real quick for all of your back office staffing needs. That means for employer of record, staffing, contracting, staff augmentation, go to back office
payroll funding, anything payroll related, time card based. Talk to us. You want to be employer of record? We're employer of record. Talk to us. Thank you.
And for me, so I'm running a special deal for the end of the year. It is our agency growth machine package where we build an entire sales and marketing system inside of your business in 30 days with a 90-day ROI guarantee. Go to realdsp.me/build. And I'll throw in one more as well. We have an off Facebook group that we just created called the Syndicate, the Headhunters Syndicate. And you can go to realdsp.me/syndicate. For those folks who love a lot of free speech and don't like big tech censoring their thoughts and opinions, but only for recruiters, go to that and sign up. It's completely free. Lots of resources in there. With that said, guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Dan, thank you. Ryan, thank you.
Thank
Chris,
you, Dave.
Neil,
Yeah.
thanks, you guys. All right,
Thanks,
folks.
guys.
That's it. Peace
All
out, Cub
right.
Scout.
Take care.